Good evening, everyone. Good evening once again. So I'm taking the stage for the second time here and in the role of a moderator in this topic that is very close to my heart, social innovation. So I have two gentlemen here who I've known for quite some time. I think almost the same amount of time, both of them, because these two gentlemen have something in common when it comes to KECTIL. Both of them were trainees on design thinking. And you can see their titles. Both of them are CEOs in their own rights. So we're going to have a conversation about their journey, their story, and see what lessons can you learn on ways in which innovation can address some of the social issues that face our societies today. So straight to the conversation, and I'm going to start on my left side with the introductions. So the mic is on this side. So, good. Has his own mic. So who is Lennox Omondi?
It's working. Good evening. My name is Lennox Omondi. I'm the co-founder and the chief executive officer at Bana Limited, which is a social enterprise that is manufacturing biodegradable, cost-effective, and hygienic sanitary towels using banana fibers. Also, a global board member with the KECTIL Global, and I was also a participant in 2022 for KECTIL Kenya program.
Okay, thank you so much, Lennox, for your modest introduction. So Lennox is a global public figure. So has any one of you ever met an American president? So Lennox, I think, is the only person in the room who has met an American president. Oh, we have another guy here, Dula. I think they are the two guys who have met and shook hands with an American president. So there is much more about him which he hasn't spoken. Thank you for your modest introduction. And then we move to, on my right side, we have a gentleman here by the name Brian Gitonga. Tell us about yourself.
My name is Gitonga Brian, as is illustrated from the poster. I'm an alumni of KECTIL, the same cohort with Mr. Lennox. I'm very privileged and grateful to be here. I'm also the founder of Fabs CBO, which is an organization that deals with sexual reproductive health rights for children with intellectual disability, where we advocate for their well-being, and also we fight against sexual gender-based violence for children with intellectual disability. And I'm very passionate about the theme that is the critical role that we play as the youth of this country and the world at large for social innovation. Other than that, I am a student engineer at Multimedia University of Kenya, pursuing a bachelor's degree in electrical and telecommunication engineering. Yes, soon to remove the student bit from the engineer, and then I become now an engineer.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. And this is a young man who is highly accomplished. He hasn't finished his undergraduate yet, but as you can hear, the kind of value he's already providing to society and to specifically in Mathare, you work in Mathare, is very huge. There are a lot of beneficiaries of the work that is done. And I want to start us off with one simple question. Lennox, what is social innovation?
I will define social innovation as critically identifying a local pressing problem and solving it using the locally available resources. So that part makes it a social innovation. The innovation part will have to be a unique way of solving that problem. So that is how I'll define it simply.
I'd like to get the perspective of Brian Gitonga on the same question.
Well, social innovation is simple. It is identifying a problem that is in the society, that is the people around you. What are they suffering from? What is that is a pain to their neck? And then seeking to understand that problem from their own perspective. Seek to understand the problem from the person experiencing the problem and work with that person experiencing the problem through the journey of identifying and coming up with a solution for that particular problem, such that the solution will be not only solving their problem, but will be solving the problem in a way that best suits that particular society that you're dealing with. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. And now you've given a glimpse into the process of innovation. You've talked about looking at a problem from the perspective of the person who is experiencing it. How do you do that?
Well, the same way you find someone is gloomy and you seek to know why are they gloomy, what makes them gloomy, is the same way you identify a problem. You realize, like for instance, for my organization, and I must appreciate there is a co-founder seated right there. You can wave. Thank you for coming. So when we were beginning the Fabs, the problem that was at hand at that time was the problem of the society, or Kenya at large at that time had ranked third in terms of teenage pregnancy globally. So we sought to find out what could be the problem with our country, what could be the cause of the problem. And right from that point, we decided to go interviewing and finding out right from the people who have experienced that problem. So the best way to find and understand the problem, talk to the people who are undergoing the problem, speak to them, interview them. Like we found out that there are many organizations solving the same problem, but we also found out that other than the teenage pregnancy that we are seeing in the country, there is another problem of teenage pregnancy among intellectually disabled children, which has not been identified. So as you discuss, as you interview the person going through the problem, they're going to help you understand the problem better.
Allow me to dig deeper into the same question. So when you say that you went and talked to the people who are experiencing the problem, and in the process, you realize that there's a specific problem within the problem. And there are situations whereby you generate a solution to address a specific problem, and that solution turns out to be a problem again. I'll give a common example. You know the snake story in India. A village had a lot of snakes, and it was a big problem. So they wanted to eradicate the snakes so that people could be safe. So what they decided to do as a solution to that problem is that they were giving 1,000, let's say 1,000, to anyone who will bring the head of a snake, so that people could kill the snakes. So after some time, people killed the snakes, but then it changed to people starting to rear snakes so that they could take more heads and get more money. So instead of reducing the number of snakes, the solution ended up creating a large number of snakes in the village. So how do you deal with such kind of problems when you're trying to provide a solution to a problem?
Well. That's a good one. I like the question. At times you will find yourself creating a problem in the name of a solution. But one, let me say that one is inevitable, especially if when you're finding a solution, you do not know exactly what the solution has to be, especially if you're looking at it from the perspective of your top leadership and you want to find the solution to a certain problem. But if you go to the specifics or to the particular person going through the problem, one, they will help you identify the root cause of the problem and they will help you address that root cause. However, at times you find yourself, the solution you're making is another problem. Well, if it addresses the first problem, then now that's a good problem. It has addressed the first problem, but now it is a problem on its own. What do? You look at if this problem is something that can be done away with, or is something that is good for the community. Like in your case, Mr. Guguni, there is no problem with snakes being many in a particular place, provided their movement is restricted, they don't cause havoc to the people in that community. So you can rear them, they can be a source of income to the tourist, they can be used to provide medicine for antidotes. But now seek to know, especially if you have solved the problem of the particular person on undergoing the challenge. That way, in most cases, you will come up with a solution that is well suited for that particular person, and it is highly unlikely that you're going to emerge or come up with another problem. Rather than you sit as the government, for instance, and say, okay, we are having the problem of teenage pregnancy. What do? You've not engaged the people undergoing the problem. You just come up with a solution. Most likely you're going to come up with another problem. Yeah.
Thank you for opening up the room for creativity in addressing arising unintended consequence of solving a problem. So what I get from you is that there's a lot of research that is involved in the process of identifying solutions to a social problem, because every solution has got the inadvertent consequences of it, and outcomes are not always positive, they are negative ones. So let me come back to Lennox. How are you doing? How did you find out that there was a menstrual hygiene problem, and how did you go about framing a challenge from that particular problem?
All right. So, at the inception of Bana, okay, I'll give a story of how that happened. Being that I was, and I'm still, a mass communication student, most of the time what was happening is you get to write articles or you collect news. You go to interact with people in the communities and you collect news that might be on TV or on radio or on print media. Then most of the times when we used to go into those communities, one of the main thing that we were seeing is there are a lot of girls that are not going to school. If we come to this week, they've gone. After a month or so, then there are a large number of girls. Then when we were asking these elders, the mothers, just randomly, why are girls not going to school in some point of the month? Then they're saying they don't have sanitary towels. But then at that point, I didn't understand the rough knowledge that I had on menstrual hygiene was the one that were taught back in class 6, because that wasn't my area of expertise. So I was like, they don't have pads, why don't you guys buy pads? Then they go to school. Then they said that is not the case. Either you choose to buy that sanitary towel or you choose to get food. Then somebody pays your fee. Then it's on a uniform and some other things. At that point, I didn't take it as something very huge. I was just like, maybe they'll get a job and they can now start affording sanitary towels. But then recurrently, the more we went there to do those stories and to collect those data, it reached a point when the late Professor Magoha was now releasing the class 8 results. Then of a large chunk of number of girls didn't finish the examinations because they didn't have access to menstrual products. And now that ignited me to start following up on the issue of menstrual lack of access of pads until we defined the problem, which was now period poverty. So doing more research and just asking randomly, campus girls, do you guys sometimes miss classes because you don't have pads? So some shy off at the moment because I don't think it's an open conversation that usually most people can have just randomly. I can come to you, I don't know you, and I ask you, do you miss sometimes classes if you don't have pads? So they don't answer. But then the more we digged into the ecosystem of menstrual hygiene, pads, the manufacturers, and everybody who is involved, we realize that there's much more bigger problem than just having access or having that pad. Because at some point when now we are defined the problem and we know what we are doing, we go to a certain community, we find a young girl with a pad on, in their bag, but then they don't know how to use it. And so there were a lot of problems from the first step, rather than just now, before we came up with the solution, we understood the whole avenue of why is period poverty existing, and if it exists, have there been anybody or any organization or institution which has tried to solve this problem firsthand, and why did they not succeed? So that before we went back to sit down and come up with a solution, we had already known that somebody tried, they took this route, and they failed. And why did they fail? They failed because of ABCD. So we reached a point where I told my team that if we can't be the same like the NGOs where you collect sanitary towels and go and give them for free, or you just distribute them and that is gone for a month, you'll come back again after 4 months, 2 months. Let's say maybe we create a new product. Just like that. That was the inception of it. And the way we're going to create a new product is, initially when we were doing the findings, collecting the data on the people who have tried to solve it and where they had failed, you realize that the conventional sanitary towels are 91% plastic. That is an equivalent of 4 plastic bags in just one piece of pad. And that is why oftenly most girls complain of burning, itching, and the irritation effect. And so we wanted to devise a new product that was solving all these problems. One, it was supposed to be accessible. You can find it and you can go to school now, afford it, and still go to school. 2, we were looking at the environmental impact that the product should have, given that now the existing products are containing plastic elements in them and they're taking a long time to degrade. That was also another problem that we wanted to solve. Another problem that we wanted to solve again was menstrual hygiene education, the awareness, everything that will involve the education, the awareness. Because if somebody have the sanitary towels that somebody else doesn't have, but they have it and still they don't know how to use it. So we're also looking at how can we also devise maybe a program, or just we have an initiative that is purely based on menstrual hygiene education. So those 3 problems defined our pathway for innovation when we were starting. So from that point, we moved to now identifying how are pads being made and how do they look like. So my team and I, Dule included, I think the first time we bought a sanitary towel, we in campus second years, and we were like, oh, it's actually softer than Soviet, because Soviet is a little bit rough, then the pad is a little bit softer. So we were like, okay, then we didn't find it something that is, for at that point when we bought the first one, we were like, this is something that everybody should have. Because for us, we thought like, if we are able to buy it, then why not them? Then we looked at how pads are being made, the components, the elements, and I would agree that if you solve a problem, the first time you solve it, after testing it, you're going to come back to create another new product. Because when we made our first MVP, I remember somebody called us Pad Boys, but that wasn't even hurting. The most hurting part was when now we were giving somebody to test it. The girls randomly, then they're just saying, looking at it, not even touching or anything, just looking at it, then they say, nah, I'm not going to use that pad. They've not even understand, like, we want to tell you what the pad is made of, the benefits, just looking at it, and they're like, nah, 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 nah. So asking the questions, the wings are not the same. I'm like, okay. It's longer than it should be. Some prefer short, some prefer slender, some want theirs to be thin. So you see all these things. But in our mind, we were just thinking, let's just make a pad. It should be standard that everybody should use. But then now, you have a pad to solve a problem, but when you go to give the people who are facing the problem the same pad that you thought would solve their problem, they now start pointing out another problems in the solution that you brought to them. They don't want it, it doesn't stick well, it's moving, they can't swim with it. And I'm like, don't go and swim when you have it. Postpone the swimming to another day. But then you realize you have to devise a good solution that can work in all those situations. So I think using the concept that is mostly that I use a lot was the design concept. When if you've gone to test the product or the MVP that you've made as an entrepreneur and you find feedbacks, you get them and you have to come back again to do to continue devising now the real product that you want to put. Sometimes you have to go back to the first step and identify and define the problem again very well. So you reach a point, you have the solution at hand, but you are going back to the first step to define the problem again. Because now you thought you defined the problem as lack of pads, but now the problem is not that alone. It's not there, but again, the one that is there has problems that you have to make sure that yours is fixing.
Now, Lennox, you've talked a lot, and a lot of questions have come in my mind. I'm just arranging them, and I'm almost forgetting the first one. So just before you go too far, yeah? What I can hear is that social innovation is not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the people who are looking for quick fix solutions. And also, what I'm getting from your conversation is that there's a lot of feedback loop in the process of socially innovating. And also you'll go and talk to the people who you are providing a solution for, and they'll tell you no. I want to ask a question and engage the audience in two ways. The first one is that with regards to pads, among the men only, I want to see how many of you have ever gone to the supermarket or to the shop and bought a pad?
Quite a number.
That's a good number. Clap for yourselves. Yeah? That's a good thing, because I think there's stigma also amongst some men. They can't go buy a pad for some weird reason, yeah? So that's a good thing. So now, second way in which I want to engage you. Hello, are we together? The second way in which I want to engage you is that there are two people who are approaching you to work with them. There's person A and person B. Person A comes to you and tells you that I've heard of this idea and it makes a lot of money. There's a lot of money in that idea. If we do it, oh my, we are going to laugh all the way to the bank. And then there's person B who comes to you and tells you, there's this particular problem that I've seen that I want us to engage in solving. I want us to work together to solve that particular problem. It's going to take us some time, but if we solve it, we're going to make the society better, and eventually, it's going to be a good business. So, which one of you will work with person A? Just be honest, eh?
Can I start?
Let me see from the audience. Person A, who have told you this is a business opportunity, we are going to make money, millions. Person A, just be honest. No, nobody will judge you. Just be honest. Okay. Those ones who are good, person B. Person B, who will work with person B? Okay, I see like it's 50-50. So the thing is this, there are people who are pursuing money, there are people who are pursuing solutions. And we are going to dig deeper into that afterwards. But now, these two gentlemen here, they have two different models of solving the problem. Now, Lennox, when he started, he was focused on solving the issue of menstrual period poverty. The business came later, right? The business model came later. So he's running a company. He's a profit-making company. For him, he has a very different model. His is not a company. It's an NGO. So it's not for profit model. So why is it that you're not running a company? Why?
Why am I not running a company? Don't I like money? Don't I love money? Well, as a comrade, those of us who are comrades, comrade, you know, money is very important. Otherwise, utainama. But then, you realize that there are some times when you get to understand the problem that is at hand for a particular group of people in the society, your interest of feeding your stomach today and continuing with the same process of feeding it tomorrow and the other day and looking good doesn't really resonate very well with you, knowing that a good number or a particular person in the society is undergoing a more serious problem than hunger and than just looking good and driving a very good vehicle. Well, I'm a person who loves business, leave alone the fact that I'm running an NGO, but I'm a very business-oriented person. But when we were designing the problem, the solution for the problem that we are solving, we came across certain children and girls in the society, to be specific. Their cases really left a big question in my heart of what are we for as a society? Because you realized, or I'll just give two examples. We had one lady who now as we are talking, she is deceased. God rest her soul. She lost her life during the time she was giving birth in maternity. And she happened to be having a condition known as Down syndrome. So her decision making was not very well, not very good, not like most of us can. And nobody knew who was responsible for the pregnancy. All they knew is that the lady got pregnant, and now she was taken to the hospital, and well, the baby survived, but she was not able to survive. Probing further, an year later, the dad comes home one day when he is drunk, and akaropokwa that kumbe the father was responsible for the pregnancy of the intellectually disabled girl. So coming to this realization, it really pained my heart and my colleagues as we were listening to the stories. This is just one. They really made us question the society that we are living in. That because of the fact that you as a person or as an individual know that this child is not able to make the right decision by themselves, or even if whatever you do to them, the society or even in a court of law, they are not able to exactly say what happened. So you take advantage of that child. And with that, we decided that we are going to take it as our problem as well, to find how can we help these children? How can we ensure that such cases do not happen, and if they happen, then they are minimal, and if any has happened, then the culprits are brought to book, or in other words, they are made to pay for what they did. So we came up with a model of training the children to understand sexual reproductive health rights by themselves, realizing that these children are not able to speak, and even if they're able to speak, the manner in which they speak, not anyone will get to understand them. And the other problem was that even if they were to speak, they have not been taught. Normally, these children are closed up in the room, in the houses. Tapatanga, that parent that has a disabled kid, they will lock them up in the room, especially if visitors are around. Nambionga peleka mtoto bedroom. So that becomes a problem. They are not given the opportunity to learn, and we don't want them to learn business models, to become great businessmen, but we want them to be in a position to understand that even though I am a lady or even though I am a boy, certain things should not be done to me. Certain things should not be done to me. It is not right for someone to handle me in a certain way. So we came up with a model of training, realizing that normal school will not be able to meet the learning needs. They take time to learn. These children take time to learn, and you need to repeat the same thing to them twice or thrice for them to get it. So as a result, we developed a model, which is, we call it the Fabs model. It is a three-stage model, or we have a three-stage approach, where first you break down the information on SRHR, sexual reproductive health rights, into very small bits. Now that their concentration span is very small, you break it down into very small bits and use readily available materials that are around them. Mostly for us as the Fabs, we use art, that is art and music, because you cannot take an intellectual kid to a lecture like this one. You will be wasting your time. In fact, you will be frustrated by their reactions. They will be yelling. But if you engage them in activities like painting, coloring, music, then you can capture their small attention to give them some information that will be crucial for them. So that's the first stage. You break the information into very small bits, and that information is presented in a way that is very, very friendly and very okay with them. That is using a friendly approach like art. The next stage is, now get to know. I have, for example, if I'm teaching them that this is a book, have they known that this is a book, or this is my body, that no one should touch me in these areas? So you get to probe their understanding. That is the response. You can, for example, what we do, it's simple. Just ask a child, where should I not touch you? If they are able to point it, if there is a lady, if she's a lady and she points the breast, then you're able to know, oh, she has understood. But in most cases, well, you have to repeat it. But for us, at the Fabs, what we do, we use prompts. A prompt is something that you give to a child or to a person so that you aid their understanding. You aid their understanding or their remembrance of the certain material you're disseminating to them. For instance, if I want them to know that I have a handkerchief here and a book, I ask you, pick a book. If I find out that you're having difficulties locating the book, then I hold your hand. You hold the hand of the kid and direct it towards the book. That way they will learn, oh, this is the book. If you want them to know that this is an handkerchief, you can use a prompt. Probably point it to them. Show me the handkerchief. You point it to them. If they're not able to know their hierarchies of prompts, so you take them through from the prompt that will give them almost, point them directly to the answer, and you minimize the prompt, the intensity of the prompt slowly until you get to the point where they understand. The third one is, now once they have responded, you get to gauge, is it right or wrong? Have they been able to identify the handkerchief or the book? Then you reward them. These kids love, everyone loves rewards. Actually, if today if right now I ask, how many know when KECTIL was established? How many? You see very few hands. Okay. I have a present in my pocket. How many remember? Guguni mentioned it. How many remember? You see the hands are becoming many. So the same for children with intellectual disability. If you give them incentives, they get to learn faster. So we have a kind of rewarding sessions for children, so that when they learn, the reward is supposed to give them the information. They're supposed to learn that I have done it right, and even if asked next, or when someone approaches me in a certain way next, I shouldn't be able to allow them to do this, even if they are my father, even if they are my dad, or they are my mom, or they are my cousin, or whoever they are.
So, Bran,
Yes.
allow me to interrupt you. You've given the three crosses.
Yes.
So I'm very keen on understanding how do we solve this particular challenge. Let's just go back to money, because money is very important.
True.
Very, very important.
Very.
And we're also trying to solve this particular problem of donor funding and aid coming to Africa. And so most of the social problems that we have, they're not easily translatable into a business. It's very difficult. So you have a solution for a social problem, you've talked to people, but you're wondering, how do I finance this solution? How do I get it to be sustainable? So that's one challenge that cuts across many social innovators. But this guy here has been able to crack it. Lennox, how did you do it?
To get funds.
Yes, how? No, not even getting the funds. Establishing the business model first. So from...
Connecting social enterprise and business.
Exactly,
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, the way we found the nexus between the social entrepreneurship and business was, my team and I realized that what we want to do is much more greater than giving just Sunday towels every monthly and living. We wanted to create employment. We wanted to have a more greater impact. We wanted to produce a product that we own ourselves. And we wanted also the community that we're providing the solution for to own that solution by themselves. And there's only one way for us to do that. It was going through to the business direction, where we have a company and we're producing our own new product. And while doing that, we are factoring in the point where we said this a couple of times, if you've watched one of our pictures, we say that we have a heart for the world and a mind for the business. At the core of the inception, we addressed a singular problem, which was to end period poverty. But as we move forward to the business side, we realize that even if you're in the market, you can't sell onions alone. You have to sell tomatoes, you have to sell cabbages, you have to sell a lot of things for you to sustain the business fully. And if you look at the social enterprise models, most of them are not sustainable, because if they were, then we would have a lot of problems being solved. That's why in my case, the NGOs mostly, they go once in a month, or once after 4 months. It means they can't sustain that thing each and every month. So for us, we thought if we turn Bana, initially it was called the Rising Hope. So we said, if we are able to crack this solution and provide the problem and provide a good solution, we're going to give hope to any community that we'll go into. And that was the name, the Rising Hope. But then, while changing it to Bana, now that is when we made a decision that we are going to bring a new product to the market. And other than the new product, also address the banana circular economy and the green sector as a whole. And so I think transitioning from a social enterprise to a business, you as a person, and what we did with my team was to clearly define what are going to be the objectives if this turn into a business. Are we still going to maintain the same mission, the same vision that we had when we were starting the enterprise? And if yes, how are we going to sustain it? So sustenance comes two sides. Either it's in terms of money or in terms of the raw material that is creating the product and how to retain the customers for them not to, each and every month if you produce, then we have somebody who is taking them. They're not there with us. And so we, together with my team, we cracked, first of all, it's with pricing. I think the product, no matter, that is something I've learned with the menstrual product, it's pricing. No matter how good it is, or, you have to, the pricing matters. Every time we go into a board meeting with interested buyers, and part of the things they ask, what's the price? So we shy off first. We try to go a little bit around how the product is working, blah, blah, blah. But eventually you have to come back and tell them, okay, this is going to be the price of it. But then if somebody understands the kind of value they're getting for the product, to connect both the two things, we have to make sure that we are competitively affordable in the pricing market that is in Kenya or any other place. But again, we are also remaining steadfast to ensure that we still have to have the impact that we are going to have when we are starting. And so, yes, so what we did was to split the two things. Business this side, impact and social entrepreneurship this side. So we have Ecobana Foundation, then we have Ecobana the Limited, the company. Then this is business, this is purely NGO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you've created a very complex dynamic there. You've separated business and impact, yet I believe that those two can work together.
I believe so too.
Yeah, but then, despite this being a business and this being an NGO, both of them were able to get money. You got some money.
Okay.
How did you get your money?
Well, you get money by looking for it. That's simple.
Take us through the process through which you have the idea and now you're looking for money. How did you get your first seed to start?
So when you're able to solve a problem in the society and you prove that it works, then you can make money and you can get money to help you solve the problem. Actually, if you come to realize everything you pay for is someone solving your problem. I was coming to this place, it was raining and I was getting late, so I had to get someone to drive me here. That's a problem that they have solved. So when we came up with a solution and we tested it and it was working, then we began looking for, first we thought, initially we thought that we can begin by seeking people who want to be trained on the model so that they can go and train, they can go and be effective teachers or caregivers to persons with intellectual disability. At first that became a problem because now the parents or the caregivers with that particular problem or the burden of intellectual disabled children, most of them are not good financially. So if you tell them to pay for you to train them and so that they can be able to take care of their kids, they will tell you, actually, we were with a group of parents last year, and they were telling us even getting medication and therapy for these children is a problem. So if you tell us to pay you for you people to train us, then it becomes a whole then we would rather not have the solution. We are not able. Seriously, they want, but they can't. They can't. So then we knew, okay, that was a wrong foot to start with. So we decided now there are people who can help us solve this problem, only that if we can show them that we have a solution for this problem, and this problem really exists, we have a solution and the solution works. So therefore we went to the road of seeking for grants and donors. First, it was not easy. We would spend nights and days writing grant proposals, and we send them and they come back to reject. We've piloted the project, it's working, but now we do not have the resources even to work with, even to sometimes to go to the place where we need to meet with these kids. Because when we began, all of us were comrades. So it was kind of something that is in the heart, but it becomes a problem. So cut the long story short, KECTIL Foundation gave us an opportunity. They had a program last year for grant proposal writing. My colleagues and I went for the training, and after being trained on, now we became competent grant writers. Today we can write a grant, and we are almost certain that we are going to secure the grant. So long story short, there are people who are willing to fund this, provided you have a solution. The only way, you need to communicate to them that indeed you have the solution, and you need to be accountable for what you have. With good training, it's possible. We've been able to do it.
Thank you, Brian. So now, how many of you have heard of impact investing? Beautiful. So in conventional business, you have the seller and the buyer. The seller produces a service or a product, they give to the buyer pays. Now, you have business models like yours is a B2B, where it's two businesses, the one sells to the other. And then there are models, pricing or payment models, where there's the consumer, there's someone who produces a product, and then there's someone else who pays, who is not consuming that particular product. What he has mentioned, there are people who are willing to pay for the services that he's offering. And now, when it comes to impact investing, it also takes different shapes. The problem that you're solving is a problem that government should be solving. And so let's say, for example, another different problem. Let's say the number of people who are being jailed, or the number of people who are coming back to jail after they've been released. That's a government problem. It's a social problem. Or the number of people who get treated, and when they are discharged from the hospital, they don't continue with medication. So government ends up spending so much money on medicine, and then these people don't get treated, they get reinfected, and then come back and consume the same medicine. So government ends up incurring very high costs in medication for people who they're just ignoring treatment. So these are social issues I'm pointing out. Now, impact investment, how it comes about as a social innovator, you could tell government that I have a solution to your problem. Let's take a problem of people who go back to jail after they've been released. And you set up an organization that offers post-rehabilitation to people who have gotten out of prison. And if government spends 5 billion on handling crime issues that are arising from people who have gotten out of jail, you tell them that I can train and rehabilitate these people with only 2 billion. And that means you have 3 billion remaining or savings from government. So when government is raising a bond outside there, so they say, we're raising a Eurobond. You know how Eurobonds work, right? So government raises money in another country from investors who are willing to put in money to governments so that this money can be used for development purposes, and then government pays with an interest. So government raises an impact bond that will come to the country, to young innovators who are solving societal problems, and then this money goes to these social innovators. They help solve the problem at a cheaper cost. So this is a phenomenon that is not common right now. There's a lot of advocacy for impact investment, trying to move money from the capital markets, your money market fund, your treasury bills and such like kind of investments, to impact investing, where you're giving opportunity to entrepreneurs in social space to provide solutions and get people who want to invest money, invest in these solutions. So Lennox, with regards to impact investing, last question, and then we get questions from the audience. How did you raise money?
All right, so we have raised so far two rounds of investment. One was the first investment that we got was from Kenya Climate Innovation Center. So the Kenya Climate Innovation Center it was like a call for clean tech innovators who do you have a clean tech idea that is able to revolutionize any sector that innovation is working on. And it was funded by the Switzerland Embassy in Nairobi. So that was our first investment. It was in May 2022 that we got the first investment. Then we used that investment because we were in the middle of the competition, right? That time competing at the Hull Prize. So that money, we used it for getting more redefined machinery that we used to make a good MVP that we went with to the US to get funding. So the second one was the Hull Prize. So the Hull Prize is a global foundation that gives university students a platform to pitch their business ideas, and in turn you get to win $1 million at the end of the competition. So it's a 1-year-long competition that starts in January and ends in September each and every year. So we won the 2022 Hull Prize and got the $1 million. So we've got those two fundings. Yeah. So that is how we raised money for the business so far.
Thank you so much. So with that, I want to close it and open up for the audience to ask questions. So let's start with the youngest member of the audience. Over there behind.
So at the beginning of this whole event, Mr. Guguni, you mentioned that the biggest thing that we should consider is building long-term relationships. So my question is, how were they able to build long-term relationships with inaccessible areas? Because you're gonna tell me that there was no step in between the way where other problems arise. So how are you able to connect and build a sustainable relationship with people who had other motives in between the way?
Let me take other two questions from this table, Thomas, and then the lady on the other table.
I would like to thank Guguni and the team of KECTIL for organizing this. I think it's a space where you're giving youth a chance to contribute to such conversations and ideas. The gentleman on the left, Brian, I think I'm more or less in the same space. When you talk about social innovations, for us is programs whereby you're not really in it for the money. And I think it's been quite eye-opening to also listen to Lennox and his journey. I want to ask Brian the question that we are also always asked: how are you sustainable as an enterprise, as a social enterprise, not as a social innovation? You're not making profits. how are you sustaining your operations? And to Lennox, I think I'm still having that lack of understanding in terms of your approach. Have you separated the business and the impact? So is it that your side of impact, you're running things differently, and how are you doing things on the impact side vis-a-vis the business side? Thank you.
When building solutions, because we have had a lot of VC companies, investors and whatnot, they say is build what people want, not what people need. So the question I'll throw back to you, while, and also the room, and we can engage in conversation, while building, are we building things that people want, or are we building things that people need?
I'm so much thrilled to have Lennox here because I'm likely to be participating in the HALT prize competition this year. And I think my question is directed to you. You've come up with a business, it's called Bana. So how do you make your business stand out in the sense that, what if I come up with a company, I call it, let's say, Safisha, and I use your strategy. I make the sanitary towels from the banana peels. So, and eventually it becomes flooded. So everyone has imitated your idea. How do you make your business stand out? How do you make it remain in the blue ocean such that even if everyone is imitating your business, yours still stand out? Because we've seen so many companies have come up and within a very short time it has been imitated and it has collapsed. Yeah, so how do you make yours stand out? Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the questions. I'll go first to respond to Khalil's question. How do you build long-term relationship with people who have got different motives? Definitely, it's a difficult one. It's difficult to build long-term relationship with people who have different motives. Those of you who read the Bible says that how can two walk together unless they agree. So first of all, you have to have a common objective in the sense that you cannot have a relationship with someone if there's nothing that is bringing you together. So what's the objective behind that relationship? So that is going to dictate, and you can talk about values that guide you in the process of building that relationship, because a relationship is an exchange. So what are you exchanging when you're building that long term? So if there's nothing you're exchanging or sharing, then it's going to be difficult. Now, there are two questions that have been addressed to Lennox. I'd like him to answer simultaneously. So the question of separating impact and business, how are you managing or negotiating that? And the second question, the last question that was asked of how you make your business stand out. Address the two simultaneously.
All right, thank you for the questions. I'd like to start with his question about either if you're building something, building it in with the guidance of a need or a want. We built, and I believe building something, you build something on need rather than a want. I think, for example, most people want vehicles, but do you really need a vehicle in your life? Really, 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 do you need a vehicle? So I think we're building based on a need that is, you need it. You can't do anything without it. You really, really need it. You don't want it. Yeah. So I think if you're building something, and I believe if somebody's building something, build it based on a need rather than a want. Then, business and impact. So the main reason why we chose, together with my team, chose to have Bana Limited as a company and Bana Foundation was most people would approach us each and every time and saying, we want you guys to bring sanitary towels to our school. Then the conversation ends there. Because they knew that we would produce sanitary towels, then just go to any school and give them, go to any school and give them. So having the foundation this side and the company limited this side clearly tells somebody that Bana as a whole is a limited company. We are a profit-making business. But if you come to the limited side where we have the company, you'll buy the sanitary towel eventually. You have to do all this stuff. But if you come to the foundation, if the conversation starts from the foundation side, the foundation is purely supported by the business, Bana Limited. It means any conversation coming here, the foundation will see to it if it matches our objectives of the foundation, if it aligns to the same thing that we are doing, and the timelines, if we're able to do what the person is requesting. So you'll find most people, even right now, most people coming to the foundation are the NGOs, CBOs, all of them. But then there are now the NGOs that will come both two sides. They will say, first of all, we want the product, then we want you guys to be part of us and help us to do this. Then we will say, we have a good team which is dedicated from the foundation side, which is willing to go with you to these communities, because even us as a foundation, we have our CSRs that we do each and every month. If you follow us each and every month, we have a CSR that we have to do. So it means we have also clearly defined the impact that we want to create and how often do we want to sustain it. So that is why we welcome other NGOs, other CBOs on the foundation side, because it's clearly easy for us to have conversations on both other side than to mix business again. Because now we start talking, then I tell you, we buy, then you pause and you say, oh, okay, let me go back then. But if we go to the foundation and you start the conversation, I tell you, what are the numbers we are looking at? Can we support it as a foundation? What are you bringing on board as the NGO is requesting for this? Okay, then these numbers are matching. We'll be able to come together. So all the conversation that happens in the foundation now will come to the company side and say, this is what was going on. We have these people we are going to partner with. Let's see how we are going to support them. I think that was easy for us to have different conversations. Even if we bring investor in, take them to the business side and tell them this is how the numbers are looking at, these are projections, these are profits, and this is where we are going. If you put in your money here, it will not only employ somebody or bring impact in terms of both direct and indirect or create a product to the solution. This part of the investment is also going to the communities. And the way it's going, we have a foundation with a clear structure, objectives, and everything that is doing that. So to me, I thought that is a good ecosystem, and it easily solves, a lot of these buggings. You have business conversations in, your foundation conversations in. So having the two of them running separately, but still at the same mission, the same vision, and everything, it's easy. So that I know that if I see Tony knocking at my office, then I know those are foundation matters, because Tony is our MD at Bana Foundation. So it's easy for me to actually know what's going on where and what's happening that side. Then, yeah, I hope I've answered you. Then her question, so how to make our product stand out. If you start a Sunday travels industry tomorrow, I think I'm still very confident that I will still defeat you or beat you. Reasons being, because I feel like if you do something because I'm doing it, chances are you are going to fail. Because there are things I've learned in the ecosystem of sanitation, not just the sanitary towels only, just anything involving sanitation that you don't know. You're going in knowing that you want to produce a sanitary towel like mine. But maybe I'll give you the three key things that I would say. I will ask somebody who is telling me that there is another person who is also giving me the same thing. Then I will ask them, either you choose our product based on three things. You choose it based on time, value, and price. And out of those three things, you can only get two. So either, in terms of price, either you want it cheap, fast, but the value goes down. So there are three things, but you only get two. It's time, value, and price. So either you get a cheap product of less value in a faster time, or you get a good product, a good value product, takes time, or in a good time, but at a good, at an affordable price. I won't say cheap. I find cheap very, I don't usually find cheap something that should be mentioned. It's affordable. Yeah, like if you tell somebody that I'm selling you a cheap thing, eventually I'll say I don't want it anyway. It's now cheap, I don't want it. But if it's affordable, I'll start listening to those conversations. So usually we do those three. We tell you, if you want it fast, and you want the value to be also a good value, then eventually you're going to pay more. But if you want it fast, and you want also the price to go down, you're going to get a less valuable product. Because also you have to give people time, not a long time. You can't take 3 months to only make one box of sanitary towel. That is, I mean, it's not even logically, yeah. So those three, I usually find that if somebody is going to start a business like ours, even tomorrow, if they can't sort these three things out, we're still going to beat them. But and
Okay,
also again,
Lennox,
I believe. Yes.
allow me to interrupt you and cut you short. Okay. So, to learn more about what Lennox was about to say further, I'd like to recommend you Daniel Priestley. So Daniel Priestley talks about launching a product in the market. He's done a book called Scorecard. You can check it out and it's going to help you learn how to stand out when you're launching into the market. Now, how are you sustainable?
Well, like Lennox has said, if you can't start with the business, you can start with the foundation and then make it a business at some point. So when I was giving you an excerpt of what we did, we initially thought beginning it as a business would work. It didn't work. So we began it as a foundation, and now we are transitioning it to business, where we have now a training model where we can train caregivers and teachers who are going to be employed in taking care of in places where we have institutions of persons with intellectual disability. So now that brings in the business aspect of it, and it becomes sustainable. Otherwise, on grants alone, it becomes quite a hard nut to crack. Yes.
Thank you so much.